Hey, thanks for having me.
No problem. And obviously, this is, I wanted to try to find a guy who I thought compared favorably size-wise and went through a process and has yet been through the process for longer than about 2 to 3 years. You've been in the league for a long time now, and you've bounced around to a lot of teams. And one of the questions that I really want to get from a guy like you is, how important do you feel the right system is? Being on the right team in the right system with the right offensive coaches around you to a guy like your success. You were a guy in Chicago, who could have been a Pro Bowl player maybe if you stayed in that offense. And, other stops around, maybe not so much. So how important do you think that is?
Oh, I think it's very important. I'm getting ready to this will be going into my 14th year of professional football, and I'm going to meet my 13th offensive coordinator.
Wow.
So I would say, it's very important to get in the right system and then to grow in the right system for young players. I always encourage guys. It's not necessarily when or how early you play. It's when you play and how well you know that system when you play. And, looking back, and I had no control over the coordinators changing, it really had a lot of stops. But early in my career, when I was drafted by the Cardinals, we changed every year, and I really, was out of my control. I wasn't the guy playing necessarily, but I think the ideal situation is for a quarterback to go, if he doesn't play early, but to go and to learn and to sit in that system and really, be able to master it. And then if he does play, if you do have a guy that plays early, then do your best as a team to keep that guy in the same system for a few years and to give him the best chance to continue to be successful. And I think that's crucial and huge. Just the carryover from one season to the next, so that you're not going in the off season. You're learning terminology. Okay, what do we call this now? What do we call that now? And you want to be able at some point to put that part of it to bed and really start honing your craft. But if you're going through the off season, every off season, going, okay, what am I calling a hook route this year? What am I calling a go route this year? What are we calling these protections, and how are we doing? Then I think a little bit of your development and skill at the position gets staggered a little bit, and so I think it's huge to be able to carry the same system.
Josh McCown with us, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, in 2013, Josh, you started 5 games for Chicago, and the numbers were unbelievable. 13 touchdowns, 1 interception. I mean, those are unbelievable numbers. You completed 66% of the passes. What was it about that offense that you think fit your skill set? Well,
I think for me, just the structure of what we were doing with Mark Trestman and Matt Cavanaugh, and just the way that we were the way the reads were structured and the expectations of what we're supposed to do from the quarterback standpoint, it just hit my brain the right way. I'd been in, obviously, like I said, several systems, and there's, like you mentioned, and I share the same thought processes. There are guys that are gifted and skilled, and everybody has different skills and gifts, and some guys can transcend systems, and then some guys need to find that one that really fits them, and whether it hits their brain the right way, and then the play caller understands their skill set and can call the game in accordance with that player's skill set. I just felt like Mark did a good job with me through that kind of stuff, and I think it helped me, give him the best chance to be successful, because I felt like every week in and week out I could study the game plan, understand the game plan, really, really dig into it and master it. And I felt like if I did that, I could go out and play efficient football. And so it was just more of that fit of that system, and then his understanding of my skill set and how to call the game, that I think is what allowed me to have success. And I think obviously after 14 years, I figured out I'm one of those players, that really needs that and works best within a system. Some guys, their skill set is so good that they can transcend that, and so everybody's different, but it's vital for the coaches and the organization, especially when you're picking a quarterback or you're going down that road with the quarterback, to identify that and to say, who do we have here? What kind of guy is this? And do we believe he's uber talented, and it doesn't matter to a degree who's calling the plays, or is this somebody that we need to make sure there's a system in place? And do we feel like when there's a system in place, he brings the best out of us and the guys around him when he has that system? So I think you have different type of guys. I don't believe right now that there's necessarily 32 guys in the world that are that type of quarterback. I mean, it's just so hard to find that kind of guy. And so I believe that coaches and their systems and coaches doing it the right way, it has a place. It certainly has a place in our league, and there's certainly a value to guys who understand, ball and can do the best to put players in position to be successful.
We're talking with Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Josh McCown, and I think this is really interesting because obviously, and by the way, what's pretty interesting about Josh? 13 touchdowns, 1 interception last year, and the guy that we've been talking about here locally, Nick Foles, 27 touchdowns, 2 picks. The numbers are exactly in half right there, 13-1, 27-2, and a lot of people look at him and say, hey, you got your guy. Why would you talk about trading him? Now, there's some reports that the Eagles would be interested in trading him, and there's some teams that are interested in him. Do you think Chip Kelly's offense makes a guy like Nick Foles, or do you think Nick Foles, much like you, fits perfectly in maybe the Eagles' offense like you said you did with the Trestman offense?
Yeah, I think it's Nick certainly, it seems like, fits in that offense. And was playing at a high level, and I like Nick as a player. I think he's a very good player, and when you feel like you have that kind of guy, a guy that can play in that system or in your particular system, whatever that is in this league, I think you have to have, there's value there, and you have to realize that value, and they make the best decisions for their team, but obviously they have a Chip's done an outstanding job of really coming in and in some senses redefining some of football at the professional level with what they've done with their system, and it's been really, really neat to see, and to see different guys step in there and have I know maybe Mark tailed off a little bit, but Mark came in and had some success too. And so what you realize there is, that the system is good. The system can work and it can win football games, and it's something to work with. Can you go out and find somebody else that you feel is better in that system? Absolutely. I mean, you can always, but that's what I'm saying. Sometimes I feel like teams have to be careful in realizing, okay, if we have a guy that's good for our system, then let's make sure we hang on to that guy and really allow him to flourish. But if you feel like there's somebody else that can take you to another level within your system, that's a call that that people have to make, and then you have to live with that. So you never know, but I certainly think it's always in this league. We'll always say it. I mean, you always. We'll say it to the end of time of who made who. When you have a good pairing with the coach and a specific player. Of okay, did the player make the coach good, or the coach? And I think it's both. I really do. I think it's both and I think when you have a system like Chip Kelly's where you feel like it's going to be in place for a while and you're going to be able to win, and stay competitive, then it's a matter of just settling on that right guy and letting them grow in that system and really master it.
Josh, very interesting stuff. Let me ask you this then. Would you think that your skill set be a fit for Chip's offense? I mean, you said you bounced around 13 different offensive coordinators. Is this an offense that you think your skill set would be a fit for? Because everybody thinks you need to be a guy that can be mobile and run. That would be Chip's ideal guy. But as you see, these guys are putting up some pretty big numbers, even though they're not the most agile, fleet of foot quarterbacks. Yeah,
I wish I could have crossed paths with Chip maybe 14 years ago, 13 years ago. It'd have been good, but no, it seems like he does a good job with the quarterback, and so I appreciate that and the way they go about things for us, and I'm certainly from afar, a fan of what and then we got it up close too. 2 years ago, we went up there on Sunday night that same year in Chicago, and they handed it to us, and it was hard to take and hard to be a part of, but from an purely offensive appreciation, just to watch how they play is neat, and they do some cool things, and so it seems like they give the quarterback a chance to be successful with what they do. And it seems as though, you haven't had a ton of quarterbacks play through it, but you had a few now, and it seems like it can transcend the player. And I think that's like we talk about with players. I think you have specific quarterbacks that are very, very special players, or players in general that can transcend the system. And then you also, I believe, have systems that can transcend players, that can take a player and get the most out of him, and coaches that can do that. And it seems like the Chip and the guys at the Eagles are able to do that right now. So that's neat what they're doing offensively. But I'm happy where I'm at in Tampa, and so. I'll leave that at that.
Well, you got some weapons down there. That kid Evans has got to be someone that you got to, your eyes got to get a little wide thrown to him. Now you had Marshall out there in Chicago, obviously, who's a great wide receiver. But Evans, how do you compare him to a guy like Marshall? I mean, better than Marshall can be. I mean, what do you think? This kid's a beast. Yeah,
it's still early, but I think there's a the sky's the limit for him. I think he's going he can develop into a special player. One of the best things he's got going for him is Vincent Jackson being in the room with him. A guy who not only can relate physically, because Vincent's a big guy who's played at a high level for a long time in this league, but also just as a man. Vincent's a terrific person, and so to have him to know that he's going in a meeting room every day with Mike, it's good for us. And I think the world of Mike and what he can do as a player. He's just got a tremendous skill set with his size and his speed. I don't think people realize how fast he is. He's such a long strider that he is covering ground when he's running, and then he's got a competitive edge. That really reminds me of some of the guys I play with, Steve Smith and Brandon Marshall, and some of these guys I play with over the year. This kind of, when the lights turn on, there's this edge to them that they're going to bring it, and that kind of hate to lose and fight for everything edge that you want, and so I love seeing that out of Mike, and I think the future is really bright for Mike. What he's got to continue to do, and the great thing that he did this year, I think, was realize who he has to be, what kind of work ethic, what's his toolbox going to be, how is he going to be a pro, and what are the things that he's going to do, taking care of his body. How he works out, how he studies, all those things. What are those things that he's got to do to get himself ready to play Sunday? And I think we got that accomplished this year, and that's huge for Mike moving forward, because I think I've seen this over my career, is that guys come into the league and you come in on talent, and he's a 7th pick overall, so there's a ton of talent there, and you come in on talent. But your work ethic, what you do and the way you approach your day is what sustains you. It's what allows you to play at whatever level of God-given ability you have. It allows you to sustain that and be consistent. And so it's always sad to me when you see guys who have it, but they don't have the work or the other pieces that they need to allow them to stay consistent, throughout and to really carry out their career. And so I feel like the foundation for Mike was laid really well this year, like I said, with guys like Vincent. And so I look forward to seeing, Mike continue to grow and help us in the future.
Yeah, and you went through the process last year. Josh McCown is with us. Now, you had the year in Chicago that really, catapulted you to get a free agent deal. What was the free agent process like for you? Was it something that you enjoyed? Was it something that you think, obviously you like it down there in Tampa right now. Was that something, the whole free agent thing, was it something that you liked being a part of?
Yeah, it's for me, it was just humbling, because I had gone through, free agency a couple of times before, and where I signed on the first day and things were good. I was going similar, but more going to kind of play or be a backup, but to kind of go through what I've gone through in my career, and I was out for a little bit and coaching, and then get back in and to have the success in Chicago, and then to be standing in that space again in free agency last year. It was just humbling more than anything, because it was a good feeling to go, man, I didn't think I'd be back here where you have choices and you have people that are seeking you out to come play for them. So it's fun, it's a lot of thought and prayer, and go through it and say, hey, what's the best fit for us and our family and the dynamics that we have going on, and then you make that decision and move forward and go all in. And so certainly when Tampa called and my history with Lovey, the prior 2 years before Mark got to Chicago, it was just it felt like a good fit, and it felt like I understand how Lovey wants to build things and the kind of person that he wants to coach and the kind of men that he wants to be around and the kind of team that he wants to build and so that has value to me, and so that obviously carried a lot of weight through free agency. But there were some other teams, other things that we looked at, but at the end of the day, Tampa was the best fit.
Josh McCown's with us, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback. Now, that's an interesting statement there about Lovey because obviously you guys have the number one pick, and the number one pick always there's a conversation about quarterback. I mean, you're there, Mike Glennon's there as well. Is this something that you've had a conversation with Lovey? Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota, those two names have been mentioned a lot, maybe in that top spot. But, I'm sure that's something that doesn't concern you too much, but is that something that's a real possibility?
Well, I would have to think so. I mean, when you're a 2-14 team, and we went through we took our lumps, obviously, and I go back to it, and it is. I don't want to make excuses, but the reality is we lost our offensive coordinator the week before the season opener, and so we weren't, equipped enough to be able to overcome that, and whether it was me or everybody, all of us in it. Well, I don't think we were equipped enough to overcome it. So it's tough, and you go through a year like that, and you have this kind of record, and we certainly you can look at it and go, we got to be better at a lot of places, including quarterbacks. So you understand that, and if you go through this thing and you feel like you can help your team and help your franchise by picking a quarterback, then it's a huge position, obviously.
Yeah.
And so if you feel like when you plug that guy in that you can make that kind of impact on your team, it's hard to pass up. And so I understand it, and I trust their leadership. I trust Jason Light and Lovey and the decisions that they'll make, and we'll go forward from there. And whatever it is, whatever position, quarterback or whatever, we'll embrace that guy, and I'll do everything I can to help him, help our team win, because that's my main goal. Is just, especially at this point in my career, it's wanting to be a part of something where we're doing things the right way. Offensively, we have a system and a structure in place that's right. And I look forward to do establishing that with Dirk Cutter and then helping whoever that is play the position, whether it's myself or one of these young guys or Mike Glennon, whoever that is, helping that guy play the position as best they can and help our team win football games, and that's all that matters. And so we'll see. There's a lot of time left between now and then, and there'll be a lot of studying. But I know this. I believe in Jason. I believe in Lovey and the decision that they'll make, and I think it's going to help our team moving forward.
And for the Eagles fans out there, Jason Light, you remember him. He was in the front office in Philadelphia, now down there in Tampa Bay, helping out the Buccaneers. Obviously, Josh, this deflategate, we got to get your opinion on it. You play in the league. It's a position that you know very well. And just as a starting quarterback in the NFL, what is your take about this whole deflategate and the footballs and how they got that way?
Well, it's kind of two-part. I mean, the game was 41-6, so there's a part of me that's in that camp that I say that specific game, Andrew Luck is a fantastic quarterback, but New England's defense created some turnovers, and it doesn't affect that side's football. It's just so I for that specific game, it's hard for me to go, yeah, man, the deflated footballs made the difference in that football game. I don't believe they did, it's beyond that. It's hard to know. I mean, I understand the public perception, especially when you look at a team like New England, who I think does a fantastic job of pushing every edge find to looking at every nook and cranny to find an edge to win football games, and I don't know, I'm not there, and I don't know what's come out of it, that this was intentional or not intentional. So it's not for me to say, but I just look at what they do, and they're so innovative that people, that's people's natural is to look at them, and natural reaction is to look at them and say, well, they're guilty, and I don't know if it's that clear cut. So I think there's more information that probably needs to be learned or come out. And
apparently there's some news coming down right now as we're talking here, Josh, that the NFL is zeroing in on a locker room attendant with the Patriots, and I think that's the biggest thing is, if 11 balls lost air, how did it get out, and who did it, and where did they do it without anybody seeing them?
Right. Well, exactly. And I'll.
But would that be you? Would that be you saying, "Hey, buddy, I need this done, so I need you to do that"? I mean, like, should we be looking at Tom Brady?
Absolutely. But here's the thing: is it's not, or at least in my opinion and from my experience, sometimes if you get a ball and you throw it and it's still, hey, take a little air out or put a little air in. But I don't think there's any quarterback that's got his PSI gauge out going, hey, get it to 11, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's so for people to come down on Tom or whoever, it could be as simple as, hey, take some air out of that, or hey, put a little more air in, not understanding or even thinking about whether or not that's crossing any lines. I mean, I know I certainly wouldn't. I mean, you just, hey, because you don't think of it being pounds worth or whatever. So yeah, I mean that's why I've up until you said what you said, I reserve judgment, because I said what if he's just saying, hey, take a little bit out of this one, put some more in that one, just trying to get the balls right, and has no clue of what it measures. I mean, come on. So and then you have the weather and stuff, So I don't know. That's just my opinion, but also, if it does happen and if it was intentional, then I hope that there is, somebody that actually did that. I mean, that's at the end of the day, there's somebody that actually did that if in fact it happened, and hopefully that person can come forward and because the main thing is, I have kids. I want the impression and the reflection of our league to be that it's full of integrity and that there are people doing things the right way. Yeah. That's what you want more than anything, and so I hope that that's not the case. And I'd like to think, especially with all the success they had and the things that Belichick's been able to accomplish, and Tom. I mean, you're talking about 9 conference championship games. I mean, you would like to think that they are more than that, and that this stuff wouldn't sum them up, because they're obviously doing a lot of other things right, and so that's kind of my opinion on it.
Well, you don't have to comment on this if you don't want, but I kind of said, I wonder if people around the league are more upset with the Colts for bringing this up and actually kind of bringing it out, because I feel like a lot of teams are in the situation that you just said, hey, take some air out, put some air in, and no one's really paying a lot of attention. You wonder if people are going to be mad at the Colts if the NFL ends up changing some of the rules because they called out something that maybe is practiced throughout the 32 teams in this league. Well,
yeah, and who knows? But I just, again, that's, from my perspective, that's like without malicious intent. I mean, I believe that can be asked with sincerity of just saying, hey, I just felt like the ball was a little, it was a little overpumped or a little underpumped. Just put a little air in it, and as innocent as that, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I've never been around or heard of people saying, hey, let's intentionally underinflate balls, and so
you've been on a lot of different teams too.
They've been on a lot of different teams, yeah, and so I don't know. I find it hard to believe. I think it could be just, hey man, take some out of this one, or take some, and there are definitely quarterbacks that like it certain ways. There's no question about that.
And how do you like to have your football?
I like it. It's going to sound weird, but if you envision like panels on a football, there's 4 panels on it, and there's obviously the white laces, but then there's seams all the way around the football. I just like the seams to be smooth, So really, I don't know what that PSI is, but I just like to be. If it's underinflated, sometimes those seams get real ribbed or like edgy, like real kind of thick, and the ball kind of starts getting squared off. And if it's overinflated, it gets too round. So I just like it wherever that is where those are smooth. That's how I prefer it, and that's what I mean. So if I ask a guy to do that, I don't know if that's under or over. I just know that's what it is. And, I've been doing it for 13 years, and it's never crossed my mind of, hey, is that regulation? So that's what I'm saying. I hope we're not, and you're right, there probably are people around the league. I hope we're not, going too far with something that doesn't need to be done. But that's, it goes back to the smoke and fire thing. You look at New England's history, and there's been some things that make people kind of, pursue questions, and obviously you have the success that they have. I mean, you got haters and you got people that want to say it's not, it's not so. But I don't think there's anything that can take away from what Bill Belichick and Tom Brady have been able to accomplish. They're special individuals in their specific areas in their own right, and I'm sure this will come and go. So.
Well, we'll leave you with this one, Josh. Obviously, we're talking with Tampa Bay Bucs quarterback Josh McCown. You got Russell Wilson going for 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. You got Tom Brady obviously going for his own, continuing his own historic resume. Who do you like on Sunday?
Wow, I didn't know. I was hoping I would make this pick like later in the week, but goodness, it's so hard because Seattle's defense plays so well, and I think people learned last week don't bet against Russell, because there's something to him that continues to fight and find a way. But for some reason, I just feel like Tom and that team, especially, they've not had the success that they've had over the last 15 years, and specifically Tom, without being able to overcome things. And so whether it's the whole deflated ball thing, or whether it's, the last 2 Super Bowls out in Phoenix not winning, and they overcome things and they zero in and they bounce back and respond. And so I just right now on Monday, my gut and my feeling is that they'll do the same, that they'll be dialed in, and I think it's going to be a fantastic game. But I think in the end, Tom gets his 4th one.
Well, Josh, we won't hold you to that. We know it's a little early in the week. We don't like to make our picks too early in the week, too. It is kind of early. But obviously, you look at Russell Wilson. He's going to be going for 2 and 3. He would have beat Manning and Brady in his first 2 years, 2 out of the first 3 years in the league. That's pretty unbelievable, and we obviously know Brady's resume as well. Josh McCown, the starting quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Josh, great stories, great insight. We appreciate you jumping on board with us. Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.